Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, new reports about potentially dangerous mistakes at the nation's air traffic control centers and an increase in the number of fugitive sex offenders in California. And the county rolls out a new alert system tonight to help parents track sex offenders in their neighborhoods.
I'm Peggy Pico. Also ahead, what consumer advocates say you should know about end-of-life choices after a senior care facility worker refused to give CPR to a dying woman. Then, San Diego researchers draw a parallel between Rachel Carson's Silent Spring and the ban on DDT with climate change today and its effect on spreading disease.
A one-time San Diego showplace has become an eyesore right across the street from City Hall. So why isn't anyone doing anything about it? The story coming up on KPBS Evening Edition.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. A state report says there's been a 15% increase in the number of paroled California sex offenders who become fugitives. The increase has happened since prison realignment took effect in late 2011. The Associated Press says data from the State Department of Corrections shows more than 2,700 paroled sex offenders dropped out of sight after realignment, compared to over 2,300 in the 15 months before the law took effect. Those are statewide numbers. Here in San Diego County, we actually saw a drop, or a slight drop. Now, realignment transferred lower-level offenders from state to county jurisdiction to relieve prison overcrowding. The State Sheriff's Association says more than 1,500 jail inmates are serving 5 years or more in facilities equipped for shorter stays. Now, this is another report on the effects of realignment. San Diego has 145 inmates serving 5 to 10-year sentences. 2 are actually serving even longer terms. The association says health issues and liability for these long-term inmates will only get worse over time. You can now sign up to get email alerts when a sex offender moves into your neighborhood. The county email alert will link users to the Megan's Law website where they can review profiles and find any new listings. It just takes a few minutes to register, and you can select several addresses to monitor. The Sheriff's Department and District Attorney say it's just one more tool to help parents protect their kids from predators.
Knowledge is power, and this new notification system complements the ongoing efforts of law enforcement in San Diego County. Working together, we can stay focused on holding sex offenders accountable for their crimes, making sure they remain in compliance with registration laws, and keeping the public informed.
You might want to put your child's school address in the in the website also, and be notified when a new sex offender moves into that area around their school. So it's a very important new step, additional step to help us keep this county safe, keep our kids safe.
Now, the county currently tracks 5,200 registered sex offenders in San Diego. You can register and learn more about the email alert system at SanDiegoCountySexOffenders.com. President Obama is reaching out to Senate Republicans, taking a dozen of them to dinner tonight. And next week, he'll go to Capitol Hill for separate meetings with GOP leaders. It's a change in approach from the public pressure applied a week ago in the effort to avoid across-the-board budget cuts. Now, the House has passed a bill to prevent a government shutdown. The continuing resolution provides funding through September, but it doesn't stop sequestration. It does, however, provide some budget relief for military readiness, health programs for veterans, as well as the FBI. Republicans plan to release a balanced budget proposal next week. Congressman Paul Ryan says it will look a lot like last year's plan, including a proposal to turn Medicare into a voucher-style program. Air safety has been one of the worries about sequestration, with furloughs possible for air traffic controllers. Now, a federal report says there's been a sharp jump in errors at the nation's air traffic control centers, with the biggest increase at a hub in San Diego. The local facility is also the busiest in the nation, managing air traffic for much of Southern California. Here's a look at the numbers. In 2009, 33 errors, including incidents of planes being allowed to fly too close together. In 2010, 189 errors, an increase of 473%. Nationally, errors went up only 53%. The auditors say a big reason for the jump was a rules change for the local hub, reclassifying many routine events as errors. They say improved reporting systems and stricter rules about communication also raised the error count. But the Inspector General says they're a major safety concern. The union says federal budget cuts could hold up efforts to improve air traffic safety. Airline workers and families of 9/11 victims are speaking out against new federal guidelines allowing passengers to carry small folding knives onto planes. The new rules go into effect April 25th. They allow small folding knives, souvenir baseball bats, pool cues, even hockey sticks and golf clubs on board. TSA says the new policy follows international standards and lets them concentrate on more serious safety threats. Airline workers say these items can be dangerous in the wrong hands, and relatives of 9/11 victims say even a small blade can be deadly. An update on the case of an 87-year-old woman who died after an employee at an independent living facility refused to perform CPR. Tonight, the owners of the facility say the employee did not follow proper procedures. They're investigating, but the woman's family says she wanted to die naturally, and they're satisfied with the care given to Lorraine Bayless. Still, the incident is raising questions tonight about the oversight of senior homes. Peggy Pico has more.
Consumer advocates say the public outcry over Bayless' death at Glenwood Gardens exposes the need to talk about expectations and choices for end-of-life care. Chris Murphy, Executive Director of Consumer Advocates for Residential Care Facility for Elderly Reform, joins me with more. Chris, thanks so much for being here. Are all senior care facilities regulated?
No. In the state of California, there are two predominant levels of care. One is a skilled nursing facility, which is a medical facility providing medical services, and it's regulated by Department of Public Health. The assisted living model is considered a social model of providing care and supervision, and it's licensed by the Department of Social Services. In the state of California, there's about 8,000 licensed residential care facilities for the elderly.
So there's different levels then, and the regulation is based on those different levels of care?
Yes, it's distinguished. The regulation is distinguished by whether or not the facility is a non-medical facility or a medical facility.
Let's talk about, in this particular case, I want to hear from Dr. Neil Farber at UCSD. We spoke with him earlier today about who should perform CPR at either one of these facilities, and let's listen to what he had to say.
We know that basically medical care needs to be done by someone who is licensed to be able to do so, and who is trained to do so. But CPR is something that the lay people in this country can perform, and so there is no reason for someone who knows how to give CPR to not do so unless the person requests that it not be done.
Now, that said, Glenwood Gardens' parent company now says that the worker who called 911 was not a nurse and that she misunderstood the company's policy about administering CPR. This brings to mind, what questions should a family member ask if you are heading into any kind of senior care facility or assisted living facility about CPR or end-of-life care?
I think it's really important for consumers looking to place someone in an assisted living facility that they ask the key questions of, well, first that they understand what the expectations are, that the assisted living model is a non-medical model, so the facility is not allowed to provide medical care, nor does the facility have to hire skilled medical professionals. So it would be important to ask whether or not the caregivers have their first aid certificates as they are required to, and whether they are trained in CPR. And it would be very important to review the admissions policy and the admissions agreement to see whether the facility speaks to an emergency situation like this, which failed Ms. Bayless.
Right, so you could figure out ahead of time your expectation, which needs to be clear, because some people, like Ms. Bayless' family, said she was, they're satisfied because she wanted to go, quote, naturally.
Right.
So
that brings up another issue for end of life, which is to do some end of life planning. And if you don't want to be resuscitated in the event of an emergency, then it's important to have a do not resuscitate order that's in writing. And if you're living in the assisted living facility, that should be part of your resident file if you are the person or the responsible party, so that the facility knows what your wishes are and can respond accordingly. Now, the facility is required to call 911 because they are to provide
emergency service. But if you have a DNR, EMS people will honor that. Absolutely.
The facility should bring that DNR out, have it ready to present to the EMTs when they arrive.
If you wanted to see a change, what would you like to see changed? And would it be, medical care? What would you like to see changed?
I would like to see that that there's a recognition that there are more and more medically needy and frail residents living in these facilities, basically being cared for by about 98% of their time by caregivers who only have 10 hours of initial training before they go on the floor. So if these are if we are going to have more medically needy residents, maybe we should reconsider having some skilled medical professionals be on staff. At this point in time, that's not the regulation.
All right, certainly a direction to move forward in. Chris Murphy, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ramping up business at the Port of San Diego was a major theme of Mayor Filner's campaign. Now he's released his vision for accomplishing it. KPBS Metro reporter Katie Orr joins us from the News Center. Katie, what is the mayor's goal for the port?
Well, Dwayne, he wants the port to serve as a generator of middle-wage jobs. He says in the 1990s, when the defense industry contracted in San Diego, the city lost a lot of mid-level jobs, and they haven't come back. He thinks the port can play a role in fixing that. For instance, he wants to create 6,000 jobs in what he's calling the aqua economy. That would include industries from shipbuilding to ocean research, and Filner says the port could be at the center of that.
And what kind of measure would he like to see implemented at the port?
Well, Filner says he also wants to revitalize the fishing industry and encourage local businesses to use the port for imports and exports. He'd also like to greatly reduce harmful emissions related to the port, and he says the region should try new things like creating a maritime freeway, which would allow quicker trade with cities up and down the coast and in Mexico and Canada.
KPBS Metro reporter Katie Orr. A new report says California's roads are in crisis. It says most counties have pavements at risk for failing. Researchers compared the condition of the roads in 2008 and 2012. The green areas show counties with roads in good shape. The blue are at risk for failure, and the red are in poor condition. The study says it will take $82 billion over 10 years to bring the system up to date. The Dow went up again today, but not quite as much as yesterday. A report of increased private sector hiring helped push the Dow to a new record high, 14,296. Now, here's a quick look at some of the local numbers. The coffin of Hugo Chavez was paraded through the streets of Caracas, Venezuela today. Thousands turned out to mourn the late president who died of cancer. It took 7 hours for the flag-draped casket to travel through the city to a military academy where it will lie in state. His funeral will be held Friday. A new election is supposed to be held next month. In the meantime, news reports say many Venezuelans are stocking up on food and supplies in case violence breaks out. Today in Tucson, Arizona, Gabrielle Giffords went back to the spot where she was shot 2 years ago. The former congresswoman was there to promote tougher gun control laws. She laid flowers at a memorial to the 6 people killed in the shooting and urged Arizona lawmakers to pass background checks for gun buyers. Her husband says if there had been such a law in Arizona before, the man who shot Giffords would never have been able to buy a gun. Heat is being blamed for a cracked engine blade in an F-35 fighter jet. The Pentagon grounded its entire fleet of F-35s after the crack was found in an engine blade. The maker of the engine now says it was running at a high temperature longer than usual. The F-35 is the nation's most expensive defense program, with an estimated cost of nearly $400 billion. Just over 50 years ago, Rachel Carson published the book Silent Spring. It's credited with launching the environmental movement. The Center for Ethics is honoring the book's 50th anniversary with a series of forums focused on climate change. Peggy Pico takes a closer look at the link between global warming and the spread of infectious disease.
An ongoing study on the local impact of climate change focuses on unexpected effects like the proliferation of disease-carrying insects. But as my guest Stanley Malloy, microbiology professor and dean of SDSU's College of Sciences, explains, our warming world has both scientific and ethical implications. Stanley, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with the science. A report by World Bank recently found that the Earth will be about 4 degrees hotter by the end of the century. Walk us through how these single-digit temperature changes are actually linked or could change infectious disease transmission.
So 4 degrees is by the end of the century. But if you look at what's happened so far, just in the last few decades, it's 1 degree. So now you ask the question, 1 degree, how important can that be? Well, the answer is it can be very important. Let me give you an example, right? So there is this bacterium called Vibrio parahemolyticus, a big nasty name, but it causes a pretty serious intestinal illness, and you get it from eating shellfish, right? Now, we see it in New Orleans. We see it other places, warm places where you have shellfish. Never, ever, ever saw this in Alaska. And if you look at Alaska,
it was too cold.
It was too cold. The water temperature was 13.8 degrees, 14.8 degrees. And this organism all of a sudden can begin growing high enough levels when you hit 15 degrees. So when you looked at the water temperature in Alaska, and as it increases, when it went from around 14 degrees to just over 15 degrees, all of a sudden, an outbreak of Vibrio parahemolyticus, and since then, in the warmer waters, it's a major problem in Alaska.
There's also some evidence about the temperature rising and mosquitoes migrating northward.
That's right. So mosquitoes, both the development of mosquitoes and the development of pathogens that live inside of them, like the malaria pathogen, they're both dependent very strictly on temperature. So when you move from the tropics up north, typically the temperature is cooler. But as the temperature in the north warms, especially in the winter, it allows these mosquitoes and their vectors to begin moving northward. And we're beginning to see a lot more diseases like malaria moving to higher elevations in the mountains and to higher latitudes.
Now, you're participating in the Center of Ethics Forum honoring the 50th anniversary of Silent Spring and this sort of forefront of the environmental movement, the modern environmental movement here in the United States. I want to show some video of what that looked like, because back in the day, it was talking about this book. It was rather instrumental in the ban of the insecticide or pesticide DDT because of its effects on birds and the environment. But what's interesting about this is it had a downside. The book helped to create the ban, but then there was a backlash, so to speak, or a downside to it. What happened after the ban took effect?
Well, so the ban took effect because there were birds dying and animals dying associated with the use of this insecticide, right? But the problem is that some of those insects that were dying were in fact harmful pathogens. Malaria is a great example of this, right? And so when you quit using DDT, it allows those mosquitoes to increase. And so there are more people who die due to infections with those diseases.
Could there be a similar backlash if we try to preempt this evolutionary response of insects, let's say, to this global warming or these pathogens? Could there be some unexpected backlash, like more resistance or more virulent strains?
And whenever you mess with nature, you don't know for sure what the exact impact will be. But one of the things that we have now that we didn't have when Rachel Carson wrote Silent Spring is we have a lot better ways of manipulating organisms. So for example, a very big trial in the world now has to do with the mosquito that transmits dengue virus. And so people are releasing these mosquitoes that cannot divide, right? They can't populate.
Let me move on because I do want to get to this. Climate change, it's part of the Center for Ethics. How is this a moral or ethical issue?
We're causing a lot of damage to our environment right now. A few countries, a lot of other parts of the world are suffering the damage that we're causing, and future generations will suffer that damage too.
Who have no say in it, as you mentioned before. Stanley Malloy, thank you so much for your insight. And people can hear more about what you have to say about this on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
I'm Ray Suarez. On the next News Hour, lessons from the rebuilding of Iraq after the war. That's Wednesday on the PBS News Hour.
An old abandoned building in the heart of downtown San Diego used to be one of the city's most elegant theaters. It's been empty since 1990, even though plenty of developers have shown interest in buying it. KPBS culture reporter Angela Carone looks at the past, present, and uncertain future of the California theater.
It's hard to believe this building once offered San Diegans an elegant night out. In the 1920s, the newly opened California Theater was a hot spot. It was called the Cathedral of the Motion Picture. It had a long run as a movie theater. Bruce Kuhns saw a Beatles concert film there in the 60s.
The girls screamed so much we couldn't hear anything.
Eventually, it became a live music venue. Patti Smith recorded an album there in 1978. Baby, here as I am. And Rex Udlin saw one of the best shows of his life there. The punk band Public Image Limited came to town. What do you want? What do I get? The lead singer was former Sex Pistols frontman Johnny Rotten.
Johnny Rotten was like Lincoln for punk rock.
Edlin says by that time, the theater was falling apart. It was 1984.
So here it is in this sort of rotting shell of this Victorian burlesque house that just has the tattered fabric and everything you would expect for a punk rock show.
Fast forward to today. The building has sat empty since 1990 when the owners foreclosed and investors took over the lease. 5 years ago, architects got inside to assess the building's condition. Here is what they saw. There were dead rats and pigeons inside, and a lot of trash. The roof is bad, so the water damage is significant. They put the cost of renovating the building at between $30 and $40 million. Abandoned buildings are not unusual in urban areas. The irony here is that this building takes up an entire city block across the street from City Hall, where government leaders see the building on a daily basis. But the blight doesn't stop with the theater. C Street has become a rundown corridor. Some think the theater has taken a psychic toll on this area of downtown.
It's a black hole. It has a tremendous effect. It sucks all the energy out of that central business district.
C Street was once thriving, but when the trolley line was added, cars couldn't access the street. That drove retail and restaurants away.
There has been very little private investment along C Street in decades. So if the California Theater were ever to be wonderfully restored and activated, I think that could be a catalyst for additional redevelopment on C Street. Bring better quality retail, possibly even an arts and cultural district along C Street, which would be amazing.
Developers have shown interest in buying the theater building over the years, but its high price tag is a problem. It's listed at $10.3 million. Some estimates put its actual worth at just over $3 million.
The building is also protected as a historic site. This limits what can be done with it. Bruce Kuhns helped get the building's historic protection. He suspects the owner is keeping the price high so the building will fall apart.
He's got some fantasy that he can bulldoze it, which isn't going to happen. So.
The owner's realtor admits they are not in any rush to sell. He says the listing price is based on the value of the land in a healthy market, and they need to get their return on investment. But will that return come from a renovated theater?
Probably the real value of the theater is only the dirt.
London doesn't think a renovated theater makes economic sense.
There's a lot of theaters that are probably already underutilized where millions of dollars have been spent in renovating them. I did mention just a couple in passing. The Balboa Theater and the Spreckles Theater are probably empty most of the time.
The Balboa Theater is just down the street. It was renovated in 2008 for the cost of $26 million. It's still operating at a loss. But there are some people who look at this property and still see a theater. Dawn Griffin is a developer looking for investors. She's wanted to buy the California Theater building for 4 years. She'd like to turn it into a high-end movie theater and a performing arts academy.
You know, if we needed more condos, great, fine, but we don't. You know, if we needed more offices, great, but we don't. You know, so, you know, but do we need an excellent state-of-the-art theater? I think we do.
That remains to be seen. One thing we know for sure, San Diego does not need a historically protected pile of rubble. Angela Carone, KPBS News.
San Diego weather, expect colder temperatures and rain along the coast tomorrow and Friday, as well as for the inland valleys with some sunshine by Saturday. Temperatures drop in the mountains where we could see snow by Friday, mild in the desert with rain through Saturday. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night.